good evening. Thanks for everybody attending. I'm Paul Wealls, the founder of IoT North, and we've got a couple of great talks tonight, but first of all, just give you some updates on things in regards to IoT North. So thanks to our sponsors, go250.ai, the Edge AI community website, as well as our sponsors, Newcastle University, and especially to Savas, that's on the call. Savas does have a link in the chat. If you wouldn't mind taking 4 or 5 minutes just to complete that survey, it'll really help the university on some research they're doing in regards to the adoption of IoT and the challenges of it. IoT North has grown significantly over the past few days, as we now have IoT leads as part of the family. So thanks to Will Newton and the team for joining us, and their 800 plus members. IoT North now has a website, so iotnorth.uk. The website's planned to become a big community website with functionality, including a forum for everybody to chat and get in touch with each other. Currently, we have forthcoming calendar and talks and events. We have the past 2, which are recorded, and this one will be on there too. Moving forward, we will have a use case marketplace for you to be able to advertise your solutions that we can then drive businesses to find the solutions that they're looking for much more easier than the internet's providing today. We also have links on there to our partners and opportunity for support to you as a business with things such as Pitch In. Newcastle University have some great stuff there, and also Go250 is a community for Edge AI machine vision. So vision as a sensor. We have a few competitions coming up over the next couple of months, which I will reach out to everybody about. If you'd like to follow myself at Paulie Wealls, that's PAULIEWEALLS, or our LinkedIn page at IoT North UK. There will be updates as well as to the meetup groups, email channels there, to advise you of a couple of competitions that we've got coming up from partners like AD-Link, who'll be providing the kit to win. Northumberland Council has asked me to reach out to everybody and ask if you have any use cases that specifically only work around the use of 5G. If you'd like to get in touch with me, we do only have a few days, as the bids need to be in by the 18th of this month, I believe. But they're looking for use cases that they can start to compile and put some proposals together to win some money, and then they could enable you to be able to deliver your solution in the Northumberland region. I don't know if you've seen 5G Create, but there's a big pot of money from the government currently available, so it might be a good thing to have a look at. So moving forward, tonight we have 2 great talks. First of all, we have Digi-Key, and we have Kelsey McMillan. Kelsey's the Partnership Marketing Manager, who leads strategic programs at Digi-Key and has been with the company since 2015. She's worked with all the products and services related to the IoT and earned her Associate of Applied Science degree in Electronics, Technology and Automated Systems from Northland Community and Technical College. Well done. You're much more technical than I am. Today, Digi-Key offers the world's largest selection of electronic components in stock and available for immediate shipment. From prototype to production, here to fuel innovation all over the world. You're proud to be highly recognized as the leader for availability of products, on-time delivery, overall performance, and engineer-friendly website. So Kelsey's going to show us Digi-Key IoT Studio. Digi-Key IoT Studio provides the fastest and simplest way to create, deploy, and manage and complete embedded to cloud IoT solutions. So following Kelsey's demo of Digi-Key IoT Studio, which I'm sure you'll all be really interested in, we have Jenn Fenner, MD of Proc. She's the co-founder and managing director, small tech business based at Sensor City in Liverpool. Proc offer bespoke design and engineering services, including proof of concept, prototyping, with expertise in IoT devices that use LoRaWAN and NB-IoT. Working across a broad range of sectors that span from health, environment, and the arts, Proc are a company that like to take on innovative and exciting challenges. Jenn will be talking about push to talk. Push to Talk is a service that has been designed to tackle social isolation. According to Campaign to End Loneliness, an estimated 9 million people identify as lonely or isolated and would like more social interaction. Push to Talk was designed to alleviate this isolation people may be feeling. So really looking forward to that one. That's a really interesting one. I'm really excited to hear about how you're using LoRa with that. So firstly, Kelsey, good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. I'm sure the members are really looking forward to seeing your for you to share your insights and also the solution. Just get things going. How long have you been involved in IoT?
I've been working with IoT for about the last 4 years. I stepped into an IoT specific role at Digi-Key about a year ago, and I've been working with only IoT products since. I work with all of our products from antennas to development boards, gateways, sensors. Basically, if you can put it in an IoT product, I work with it.
Excellent. So with your experience, what challenges do you see your customers having with adopting IoT?
I see a lot of different challenges. Some have difficulties in choosing the best connectivity option, whether they want to go cellular, LoRaWAN, Bluetooth. I see some that aren't sure whether they want to go with chips, modules, finished devices. And I also see some customers that are used to working with the hardware, but they're not used to the in-depth programming that an IoT application might need.
And so how is Digi-Key helping your customers?
So we're helping customers solve these in a lot of different ways. We're a one-stop shop that we offer boards, accessories, and data plans. And we also offer the programming software that I'm going to go over today called Iot Studio. It assists in programming a wide variety of evaluation boards and sensors. The nice thing about Iot Studio is it's not set to one manufacturer or supplier. We have a wide variety of suppliers that are available in the software.
That's really cool. I think this leads on quite nicely to your demo.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and get this started. So the board that I'm going to use today is going to be Cypress's CYW920819 eval board. It features an onboard motion and temp sensor. So to get to our Iot Studio, you can just go to our home page and go to our IoT solutions page. And then Iot Studio is going to be off to the side here. So to log into Iot Studio, you do need a Digi-Key account. It's free to register. So if you already have a Digi-Key account, you're able to just log in with that. If not, you can go ahead and create an account. For this lab that I'm going to be doing today, we're going to be using Bluetooth functionality. So what we'll need to do is download the latest version of the Iot Agent. We offer it in Windows, Linux, and Mac operating systems. I've worked with the Windows and Linux, but not the Mac, but they all work pretty similarly. And then we'll also need the Iot Studio Mobile App. It's available on Apple Store as well as the Android and Google Play. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and click on Get Started Now. And I'm already logged in. It'll automatically log you in with the Digi-Key single sign-on if you're logged into your Digi-Key account. So what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and go into our projects page. So the projects page is where your stored projects, all demo projects are located. And you can also create a new project from here. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new project. And from here, we'll want to go ahead and choose the board that we're going to be using. We can either search up here or we can go ahead and scroll down. One of the nice things is if you don't have the board, clicking on this button right here will automatically add it to your Digi-Key cart if you do want to purchase it at a later time or look into the product detail page more. So you can go ahead and we'll go ahead and name this project. And I'm going to call this Demo Project. And we'll click Create. So now we have our new project loaded. So we'll start off here with a blank slate. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do what most people know is the Blinky Project. All we have to do is go ahead and set in an interval. The interval is going to tell our board to do something every so often. So it's automatically set up at 1,000 milliseconds. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. And then I'm going to add my GPIO pin. And if we go into the features of the GPIO pin by clicking on the icon, we can see that it's already automatically set up to the LED one that's on our Cypress eval board. So all we need to do to connect these two is click and drag. And then that is the entirety of programming your Blinky program. So what I'll do is I'll compile this. And once it's compiled, I'll click to program the firmware. So when I do this, if I have multiple boards, I'll have to select from them here, but I only have the one, so we'll stick with the COM port 3. And I'll click program. And what this is doing is it's sending all of the coding that we did to the board. And it'll just take a moment to program. And now the onboard LED is flashing every second. So that's all it takes to get up and running and just have an LED blinking. So, and if we see here, we can click in to see these. The GPIO pin is automatically set up for LED 1. We can set them up for different pins if you wanted to, wire in an LED and a resistor or sensor or anything like that. Next, what I want to do is show the BLE functionality. I'm going to do this by utilizing the onboard temp sensor. The onboard sensors are located in the element toolbox by scrolling down here. You can add other sensors as well, and all we need to do is click add element here, and it'll show all the different sensors that we have available. So we can scroll down and we've got tons of different types of sensors from TE, micro, ST, seed, NXP. We've got humidity, pressure, temp, accelerometers, and we've got some LEDs in there, all sorts of different things that you may need for your project. And we also have some XV connectivity as well. So we'll go ahead and go back to here and we'll add our temp sensor. And we're going to go ahead and connect this the same way that we connected our first one. And then we need to add our BLE functionality. So we'll add that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and rename this so that we know that it's for our temperature sensor. And I'm going to go ahead and leave this GPIO pin on because that way I can watch my board and see that the onboard LED is blinking and I know that everything's programmed correctly. So now we're going to go to what's called the application tab. So on the left-hand side, you'll see what's going to show up on your app on your phone. On the right-hand screen is where we're going to be doing our coding. So the temperature is going to automatically populate from our original programming tab. So we'll drag that over a little bit. And we'll just have to click on the screen to get out of the properties. We'll add an interval, tell it how often we want it to run. And I'm going to leave that at the 1,000 milliseconds like the original. And then we're going to go ahead and add what's called cloud event. What this is going to do is it's going to send all of the data that we receive from the board to the AWS cloud. And then we're also going to add a label. The label is going to allow us to print data to our application. So what I like to do is kind of move it so we have a little bit more room to work with, and then expand it to make sure we have plenty of room for our text and our label. So we'll go ahead and rename this to temperature. Change the label to temperature. And then we'll leave the rest of these values the same. And I'm going to go back into our BLE characteristics. I'm going to scroll down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit to this text box. What this does is it allows the temperature to show up as well as our data on our mobile app. So then what we need to do is go to our cloud. This one's pretty simple and easy. All we need to do is click cloud storage, and what that's going to do is it's going to make sure that all of the data that's being sent to the cloud is stored. And so what we can do is we can go back into here and everything's tied together. So if I change this to temp event here, in our applications tab, it's going to go back and show temp event here as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the main programming screen, and I'm going to compile this the same way that I compiled before. We wait until the blue bar turns green and says project compiled. Click the download or program firmware button. And one thing to note with this board is you do have to reset the board in order to be able to reprogram it. So in order to do that, you have to press and hold the recover button, press and release the reset button, and then release the recover button. So now we'll go ahead and program that. And it'll just take a moment. And then we're going to go ahead and bring up our Digi-Key IoT Studio app. And we're going to provision our device. So we click the little box up in the right-hand corner. We click our project that's here, and it'll take a moment to provision. And then you'll see the Bluetooth icon blinking in the bottom right-hand corner. And now that that's steady, we have our temperature set up to show in degrees Celsius. So that's going to be reporting every second. So by holding my finger on there, I can kind of change the temperature to warm up a little bit, and releasing it, we get the temperature to drop a little bit. So that's the way that that'll show up. If we don't want to use the mobile app to monitor the temperature, we can also use the software itself. We can go to the dashboard, and the first thing that I like to start with is the data glance. It's a quick, easy way to go ahead and see the most basic data. So we'll click on these three dots here and go into settings. We'll change the title to temperature, units to Celsius. I'm going to leave the decimal places at 2. I'm going to change the icon to temperature. And then here I'm going to go into the data source. This is telling you where we want to pull the data from the cloud. So I only have one project set up right now, so I'm going to go into the demo project. And then I'm going to go into my cloud storage, and I want the value string data because that's where my temperature is located. Click save. And now we have our temperature on our dashboard showing up automatically. We can get more detailed with the data showing up on this dashboard. I also like to use the data graph. So what we'll do there is we will go into the dots again, click settings, and I'm going to drop this interval a little bit here. We'll go into our data source, and where this changes a little bit here is we have to choose our X axis and our Y axis. So for X, we want our time, and then it automatically says to choose the Y, so we'll choose our temperature again. Click click Save. And now we can see the temperature as it changes over time. So that's how to create your own project. If you can get more detailed, less detailed, however you'd like. Now for demo projects, we have a wide variety of projects for the different boards and sensors that we use. You can see them all here, whether it's BeagleBones, PIC IoTs, Arduinos. We've got at least one, but typically multiple for all the boards we have available. So the demo project that I like to use for this board is the LSM9DS1 demo. So this one is going to show how we use the accelerometer on the board. So you can see here that the demo is set up with the interval as before. We've got the accelerometer in here. This is the debug feature if you'd like to use that, as well as our Bluetooth. So we'll go in and look at the application. We've got the interval, the Bluetooth, as well as our cloud event and our labels. And then the cloud event as well as the cloud storage. So we'll go ahead and compile that the same way. Download the firmware again. And then we can go into our phone app, choose our device. It'll provision. It'll take a moment for the Bluetooth to link. And then we can see real-time data from the accelerometer showing. And then the thing I like about this demo is if we go back and go to the dashboard, or sorry, go to the devices screen, it shows really nice data here that they set up on a dashboard just for this project. So it shows you can change colors, change different things. So if we go back to my original project, the times that I use obviously aren't the greatest for real world applications, but they work great for testing out and demoing the project. So Iot Studio is great for beginners and prototyping and just getting up and running quickly. If you're comfortable working with the C code, you can go back into the project, like here, and click on this icon here. And this will show your code editor. This is where you can see all of the C code written for you. So you can see that, in a few minutes, we have essentially 200 and some lines of code written. The nice thing about this is you can go ahead and download this and edit it if you'd like. You can also click on these icons here and it will highlight where that starts in the code. So if you need to edit it, see how that's working, it's a great option, especially when you start adding in multiple sensors, multiple different connectivity options, because we do offer, cellular, LoRaWAN, we've got BLE, Wi-Fi, all sorts of options. And with this, you can have up to 5 devices connected at one time, and 10 megabytes of AWS cloud storage is included. It's all free to use. If you do want to use your own cloud storage, that is an option as well. And as I stated before, we have a large variety of boards and sensors available to use, but we do have the option to use any sensor that may not be in there by writing your own EEL. And we do have an EE Wiki post showing how to do this. So that's a high-level overview of Digi-Key's Iot Studio and how to create a project and use a demo project. Does anybody have any questions?
I'll open up the floor. Does anybody have any questions? You can put them in the chat or come off mute and ask directly.
Hi, Kelsey. Leon here. I think you do a great job of just explaining that to the masses, whether you're a coder or a non-coder. I really, really enjoyed your presentation. A couple of questions from me is really about how it works financially, the sort of the business model. So presumably you make your money on the parts that we would be acquiring, and we would continue to pay Amazon or whoever our cloud provider was for that side of things. But where is it just the parts? Because once you can download the code, ultimately you could swap out those components and then presumably have written the code on this IoT dev platform for free.
Yep, that's correct. We're using this more as a helpful tool for our customers than a revenue generator. It's something to help make everything quick and easy and just get you up and running and see how some of the boards work versus other boards.
Great, yeah, it's really good for smaller runs, but once you go into volume, that's where you could potentially have an issue. I mean, who's responsible for the firmware, for example? Would that be you or?
It depends on how you want to use it. If you want to go in and download each board individually through DK IoT Studio, that's definitely something you can do. Otherwise, say you switch down to the chip that's on the board, you can use the C code in whatever programming software that you choose to go ahead and download that. Once you create it, it's all your software to use.
Yeah, it's excellent. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leo. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Maybe I can ask. Hi, Kelsey. Thanks for the presentation. It was very interesting. Just wondering about custom boards. So when...
Oh, I think you're muted again.
Oh, sorry. You mentioned the eels. Is there an option to also create custom boards for?
At this point, there really isn't an option to use custom boards. We do have a wide variety of boards, but if there's something that you're wondering if it will work, we can definitely look and see if it would work, if it's similar to one of the boards that's already in the studio.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Thanks.
Thanks, Jose. We have a question on chat, which I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer, Kelsey, from Brian. Where is the best place to go to learn how to code, say for receiving LoRa data and parsing strings? I don't know if you have any insight on that.
I don't know for sure, but I do know some people that would know. I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat. And if you want to go ahead and email me that question, I can get that information for you.
Great, thanks. And there's also a link there kindly sent by Mark. Was that Mr. Strevens there that responded on that one by any chance? Thanks, Mark. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, Kelsey, that was absolutely brilliant. Thanks very much. A question that sprang to mind here is, being representing a hardware company by day myself, how do you enable the hardware to be included in this platform? So, for example, we create our own boards and such like. How do we enable it to be included in this?
You can contact us and we can definitely look to see if it's something that we could add in there. We partner with a company called Atmosphere IoT, and they do a lot of our development software for us. They do a lot of the back end, and they do also have a paid option if someone wanted to have more than 5 devices or a larger data plan on there.
Yeah.
Data storage plan.
Excellent, thanks. Again, thanks very much. That was absolutely brilliant. I really appreciate your time and sharing with the members. Okay, so next we have Jenn Fenner from Proc to talk to us through on Push to Talk. Jen, thanks for joining us tonight. Great pleasure to have you here. We've had a few conversations via LinkedIn over the past few months on a few different things. How did you get into IoT?
So yeah, sort of ended up in IoT really. So I'll give you a bit of background about sort of me first, and then that'll kind of see how it's a strange but nice fit, really, I think. So I'm actually from a design background, so all of my kind of education is all based in design. But one of the things that I've always specialised in is kind of future trends and looking for what's kind of the next exciting thing. And back in sort of 2013, myself and my business partner, we started a business designing sort of proof of concepts and prototypes for other companies or sort of individuals at the time. Because IoT was kind of the next big thing, and people were connecting everything to Twitter and coming up with their own kind of crazy ideas, but a lot of those people didn't really have kind of the skills to be able to deliver on those. So that was kind of where we started, and then ever since then we've sort of worked for a wide variety of kind of clients. So we've worked with the Environment Agency. We're currently working on some NB-IoT river level sensors for them. We've been working on those for the last couple of years, kind of going through like all the different types of potential ways of connecting river sensors out in the sort of rural areas to the internet, so that they can be part of the kind of wider data that they're collecting. So we've sort of had a wild and interesting journey with many different projects, but I'll kind of go on to kind of a bit more about what DefProc does in my talk as well. But yeah, it's I kind of ended up here rather than it being a career choice at the beginning.
Sort of a natural progression falling into it. I think that's sometimes the best careers. Certainly what happened with me. I was supposed to be a film director. What motivates you in working in IoT?
So I had a bit of a think about this last night, because I think I've just been in it so intensely for the last kind of 5 years, or longer really. But just kind of I had to kind of take a moment to kind of think, okay, so why do I do this? And actually it is that kind of working with the new technology is, for kind of us as a business, is so exciting. And for kind of me personally, it's something I've always wanted to be part of. It's kind of always want to be leading the way, rather than kind of copying what the people are doing, kind of finding, okay, so what's the next technology we can kind of add as a string to our bow. And there's so much more, especially in kind of the IoT space, that we can really utilize. And kind of, we just seem to kind of go from different, we've started off doing Ethernet connected devices through to NB-IoT, which is still relatively new, and there isn't lots of commercially available products at the moment, through to LoRaWAN, which I know that's kind of a growth area at the moment, but still relatively new. So it's quite nice to be at the kind of forefront as a business, doing these really new things that nobody's really heard of, but it's quite exciting.
Yeah, very much so. So how do you approach your challenges for your customers and your partners?
I suppose one of the things that we like to try and do from the start is, what problem are they trying to solve, basically. And we like to sort of work with a very clear, defined problem. So not necessarily, we want to make a device that does this. It's also like, okay, why do you want to make that device? Why is that device going to be important? What's it going to do kind of for your customers and for the end user? So that we can get a very clear process in place of sort of what the device actually needs to do. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes people come to us with a huge wish list of features and everything, and obviously we haven't done a proof of concept yet. Mm-hmm. So it's quite good to be like, right, okay, what is the core, absolute most basic thing this needs to do to solve the problem that you have? And then we can add the extra features and make sure that those extra features are actually helpful, because sometimes things can do things, but you know, it's like, why is that there? So so that's kind of one of our main kind of approaches. And then our other one is we will talk to sort of big businesses and kind of very small businesses as well, and we will try and coach them as much through kind of the early stages of their ideas and things. So we're very much trying to be very helpful with our customers.
Awesome. I think that leads on quite nicely to talk about push to talk.
Yeah. Okay. I just share my screen. So can everyone see the slides? Is that all okay? Just before we start. Yeah. Okay. So as we just introduced, I'm Jen from Proc Engineering, and I am the co-founder and managing director. So we are a design engineering company. That is kind of our core focus. And as I've said, proof of concept, prototype, small run productions, and we've done river level sensors, medical devices. We've even created a sensor-based kind of enormous foam dart range that we take to places as a way to kind of showcase some of our skills, but also as an educational piece for kids to have a go on and things. So we take it to schools and all those sorts of places. And yeah, our speciality is in IoT, so NB-IoT and LoRaWAN, but obviously also other traditional like Wi-Fi and so on. So just to give you kind of a bit of a background to Push to Talk, we are the initiators for the Things Network Liverpool. So we run about several, I think it's a dozen gateways across the city. And we have quite a lot of coverage in the city centre and kind of out towards kind of more suburban areas. And we started this sort of around 2017. So we were part of the Kickstarter. So we got kind of the original gateways, and we've been very sort of heavily invested in this idea of the community network. We also appreciate on the other side that, you know, there does need to be kind of a commercial entity that does take care. So like a ISP would take care of a LoRaWAN network, which as we've grown over the few years, we've decided actually as a business we should really hand off the idea of looking after a LoRaWAN network across the city to somebody else. And we do have some kind of partners in mind, and we're sort of working with them to sort of build a project for the future. We don't have one just yet, but we're working together to see how we can deliver that. So Push to Talk is a service designed to tackle social isolation, and the idea behind it is kind of a unique one, really. So basically I'll give you the basic kind of outline of the service, and then we'll kind of see a bit of how it's evolved towards LoRaWAN. So basically it is each person has a hardware button, or at the moment we've developed an app, but I'll come on to that in a little bit. So we've developed a hardware button, and each person has a button. They press the button and then they'll be connected through a phone call, and this allows them then to talk to kind of as many people as they like. So as we mentioned earlier, the Campaign to End Loneliness did a couple of surveys that said that basically the results were that 9 million people identified as feeling lonely regularly or isolated. One of the problems with loneliness is it impacts greatly on people's mental health, which then impacts on their physical health. So obviously if you're lonely, you can develop things like depression and anxiety, and those conditions then lead people to take less care of themselves, which then leads to more GP visits and potentially hospital admissions, depending on sort of how great the problem becomes. And that's something that when we first started this project, I wasn't really aware of, that loneliness could actually have such a physical impact on people that they would actually end up sort of requiring hospital treatment towards, you know, sort of the end of that. So it's become very important to kind of work on this project. So this is kind of a bit of a history. So it all started around sort of, I think, 2015. We were part of a health and social care hack day for Liverpool City Council, and they basically got lots of different tech companies from around the city together into one room, split everybody off into different kind of areas, and there was many different themes. Loneliness, especially for the elderly isolated, was one of those themes, and that was the table that we were given. And one of the things that the group wanted to create was something that connected people together. So rather than the reliance on volunteer-led services, so at the time, sort of, you know, five or so years ago, there was a lot of, you know, services where people could just ring and say, hi, I feel a bit lonely, or, you know, sort of the Samaritans or Silverline, those sorts of services. But what they found was that actually people felt embarrassed about using those services. They didn't want to particularly admit that they felt lonely, and so therefore weren't making the best use of those. So we wanted to create something that could actually connect those people who were in that situation together, and then they could talk to each other. And because they're in that similar situation, they sort of have a bit of an empathy to one another. They can understand a little bit more, you know, if someone hasn't seen anybody all week, then that person will understand kind of how they feel, and then they can talk about whatever they want. And it kind of takes the burden off volunteer-led services, but also gives those people kind of the opportunity to make kind of a real connection. So the idea as well is that there's also the service is also randomized, so that if somebody could have a call, press the button and be connected to somebody, and then they could press the button again and talk to somebody completely different. So if you're sort of isolated at home for whatever reason, whether it's sort of a physical disability or, you know, as in some of the elderly cases, they just can't get out, then that would mean that they get to have lots of different social interactions all day, every day, as much as they wanted. So we created a prototype, and we won the so for this health and social care hack day, we won the challenge, and we were given £500 to create proof of concept. Then we were given some more money to create a prototype, and then we applied for further funding to conduct a trial, and we created a more functioning prototype, and it was going to be with Consortium Housing, which is a housing association that specialises in taking care of elderly people. And we got all of this in place. We had our prototypes, we had everything, we had people who were signed up, really excited to get involved. And when we first set out to kind of give out this device, because it was an Ethernet button, we then found that 50% of the participants actually didn't have internet at home, because, you know, they're not particularly well off people. They don't necessarily want to have broadband because they don't necessarily feel that they need it for anything. So we were then sort of stuck, really. So we did the trial, but obviously it was with much smaller numbers, and it meant that half of those people were then left out of something that they really wanted to be part of, because they didn't have the broadband, they didn't have the internet connection. And it's still sort of, it then posed another challenge, because obviously there was an assumption going in that everybody has broadband, and this is, you know, a few years ago, and now there's been some studies done that has found actually there is quite a large digital divide within the UK, and a lot of people, especially in more deprived areas, simply just don't have the connectivity, and a lot of them don't even have smartphones. So that posed a really interesting challenge. But obviously we didn't feel like we could really move any further with the prototype being a kind of Ethernet connected device. So after that, we then had the fortunate, kind of brilliant opportunity to be a consortium partner for the Liverpool 5G health and social care testbed. And the testbed was designed as part of the kind of 6 kind of flagship DCMS trials that were held sort of between sort of 2018 and 2019. And the idea behind the Liverpool one was to see if technology, so connectivity such as 5G, could be used in what's the word? I've lost my word. Sorry. Used in deprived areas, so that those people could make use of some of the new health technology that was slowly being made available. But obviously, should they be given it, they wouldn't be able to access it. So they wanted to make sure that whilst health technology is slowly coming into use through the NHS, they wanted to make sure that those people in those kind of communities weren't being left out. And we did a slightly different kind of 5G trial. So the 5G that we're talking about here isn't the mobile 5G, it isn't the big masts that they're sort of putting up. We worked with a company called Blue Wireless, and they use sort of nodes that are sort of about this big, and they are placed on lampposts kind of around the area, and they create a mesh network. One of the lucky things that we found was that, actually, having discussed it with them, was that we could connect LoRaWAN gateways into these 5G nodes, because one of the problems that we found with LoRaWAN in particular is finding locations for gateways that have got kind of power and kind of connectivity, and that's been kind of one of the main issues, and I think one of the main issues why we don't have such a wider network across the country. So the 5G nodes with the LoRaWAN created this kind of really interesting kind of hybrid of network. So you've got this kind of super fast Wi-Fi, and then a really long range kind of narrow band connectivity as well. So yeah, we've sort of named it and like nicknamed it the network of networks, which I thought was quite nice. So as part of that, what we did was we were the partner that delivered the LoRaWAN network with the 5G nodes, and we also redeveloped push to talk to work with LoRaWAN, because we felt that LoRaWAN, the button itself, didn't really need to be a high-powered device that connected through Wi-Fi. We actually wanted something that was relatively low power, that wouldn't use much energy at all, because obviously if it's going into people's homes that are, aren't as well off as they could be, they then need to have something that isn't going to eat all their electricity every time they turn it on. And as we know, kind of cellular devices are quite power hungry, and one of the things we wanted them to be able to do is leave it turned on. So, and as we know, I don't know if anybody else's mum and dad or grandparents, they like to go around and turn all their devices off overnight, unplug everything. And we wanted them to feel as though they could leave it plugged in. They didn't have to unplug it every time they used it, because it wasn't going to have an impact on their electricity bill. So that was kind of one of the considerations for, instead of creating a 5G device, create a LoRaWAN device, because it's extremely low power, and all they need to use it for is to press a button. They don't need it for anything else. So I'll show you, I've got a diagram next for how this works. So this is kind of our diagram of basically how that kind of stack works. So you've got your gateway, your mesh network, and obviously that then gives you the route back to the internet, and then the phone calls are created through an API, and we use Twilio as our kind of conference call service. And basically it's worked really well as kind of from a technology point of view. It's worked incredibly well. So that's kind of a bit of a map of how that all looks. I'll put this slide up. You might not be able to read it all now, but basically this was some of the feedback that we had. So we worked with a company in Liverpool called Local Solutions, and they deliver care services. They deliver support services for carers who are basically they're the people who care for kind of family members at home. So they might be caring for their mum, their dad, their husband, their wife, their son or their daughter, and providing support for like mental health problems, dementia, disabilities, those sorts of things. And those people are kind of, I don't know, they're sort of like a forgotten set of people. Like they deliver up to kind of 22 hours of care a day for their loved ones. They don't often get to go out as much. They don't really get to socialize as much, and they don't, it's not that they can't, it's more that a lot of the time they just feel like they don't want to leave that person that they're caring for. So they were identified as an incredibly isolated group, and Local Solutions was really kind of instrumental, I think, in the success of our kind of 5G project, because they really kind of pushed it forward and helped us kind of deliver all of these devices to people's homes, offered support to the people who were using it, offered support to us. I mean, they were incredible, and they gave us a lot of insight into how this device was actually helping. And Mary has been sort of the poster lady for Push to Talk, because she gave a beautiful speech about how Push to Talk had really helped her, because we were connecting carers to carers. They then had this opportunity to share their experiences, where they don't often get to do that, because obviously they're not socialising as much. I mean, Local Solutions offer things like coffee mornings and kind of digital skills and cooking opportunities, but that's not always available to everybody. So as she says, you know, she felt like Push to Talk gave her a voice, and she really felt that, you know, it did make her feel less isolated, and they had such a good time talking. So this is a bit of sort of what our average call times were. So across the group, we had loads and loads of calls, but I won't bore you with statistics. This is just quite a nice illustration. So people would tend to talk for sort of 15-20 minutes as an average, and then our longest call was 1 hour and 42 minutes that we had during that trial period. And we felt that was quite significant, because most of the people who were on this service, they don't know each other, they hadn't met each other in person, and to have like an almost 2 hour conversation with somebody is you know, is quite, it's no mean feat, really. and I thought that was like really lovely, and something that we really, you know, we're really proud of, that we were able to give those people kind of a bit of connection and things like that. So now we're in, this is our weird kind of COVID artwork that we've created for this presentation. And basically this is kind of how we intend to sort of move forward. So at the start, just before lockdown happened, we were approached by Liverpool City Council, and they were really keen to kind of get Push to Talk up and running and out into the community, because obviously everybody's had a huge, you know, it's impacted people an enormous amount, and especially people who are like in the over 70s have it, you know, we're having to shield. I know that's lifted slightly at the moment, but it's still, they're still incredibly limited to what they can and can't do. But also this impacted a lot on our carers as well, who've been using the service before, and they wanted to be able to kind of expand on what they were doing. So we're then in the process of now getting the sort of the prototype from the trial period actually to a fully certified device, and we've also developed an app as well over the last I think from when lockdown happened to when the City Council said to us, we'd really like to move with Push to Talk. You know, how do we get it out to people as quickly as possible? You know, what do you think the best route is? And while we'd always had the idea that it could be an app for other groups, maybe sort of like young carers or what have you, we'd sort of developed it almost as kind of like in the background of the business. So it was something we had a basic sketch of, but nothing that was actually ready to deliver, nothing that was even kind of certified as an Apple app or anything like that. So I'd say over the last 10 weeks, we've produced an app, and we've then given it out to local solutions. They weekly, we're getting new sign-ups every week for people to kind of have the app. So just as a kind of, so people can kind of understand the app as well, is it isn't available to everybody. It is a referral only service. So for sort of local authorities or whoever, they have control of who goes onto the app and what organisations use the app. So there is nobody from kind of outside of those that can kind of just log onto it and start using it. Like, it's very much to protect vulnerable people, and it's very much is for the vulnerable. So, you know, we wouldn't want just anybody turning up. So that sort of push to talk. You know, we're very proud of what we've done. We'd really like to scale it. Scaling it is something that we're looking to do. So we are talking to other housing associations. So we're talking to one in South Wales, talking to Berkshire County Council. We're talking to Belong Villages. They're a care home kind of group, and they have lots of different care homes across the northwest, and they're really excited at the prospect of using push to talk as a way to connect their kind of elderly people who are in their villages, but they also offer kind of domiciliary care, and they'd like to be able to give this to the people who are kind of out in the community, so that they have a way to stay connected. Because obviously at the moment, people can't just go to the regular meeting places. Like a lot of elderly people, from like me doing a lot of market research last year, I spent all of my time almost in every community centre, every bingo, every lunch club you can imagine across the city, kind of doing focus groups and talking to people. So obviously all of those things are closed. So there's now this whole set of people who are really isolated, and that's sort of one of the things we're looking to do over the next 6 to 12 months, I think. So yeah, so that's everything.
Excellent, Jen. Thanks very much. I really appreciate that. It was a great talk. I think it's very, very relevant, as you say, with the impacts from COVID. Could even say you were ahead of the curve. I think something that's going to be prolonged as well. I think you've got some great opportunity there with the public sector. I know local councils here in the northeast, and I'll make some intros for you. I think they'd be really interested in it. Having a mum who's over 70, and I know how much she's struggling with loneliness. She's a very social person, so I think this could be something quite interesting. I mean, all her best friends are people who she's met on a bloody bus. She'll kill me for saying that. Does anybody have any questions for Jen?
Hi, Jen. I just wanted to ask, I just had a quick look on the App Store for the app itself. So you said it was just referral only. So you can download the app from the store, but then you need referral from somebody to be able to use it. Is that right?
Yeah, so basically how it works is we send a text message so we get in a list of people from local solutions with their, you know, kind of their phone numbers and who they are. We send them a text message with a link to the App Store and with their unique ID and password. So then once they can then go on to that, they can then use the service. But so you can download it, you can look at it, you can see what it is, but you can't actually get into it without a specific password, you know, your own unique password and an ID key, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Jen, Kelsey, thanks very much for your time. It's really appreciated. And good evening. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.